If you own an I bond and want to pay for college for yourself, you can cash that I bond out with no taxes. But what if you own an I bond and you want to pay for your grandchildren's education? Is there a way to do that? That's what we're going to talk about on today's episode of Friends Talk Financial Planning. Hi, I'm John Scherer, and I run a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin.
And I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermel. I've got a family financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois. And we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe. It helps other people find us and it helps support our channel. Okay, so John, you've come up with this great strategy about how to take I bonds that you might have and transfer them to your grandkids, which is not it's not a one-step deal. So let's talk
That's
about
right.
the benefits first. So tell me what the benefits are.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, maybe I'll start at the beginning with this. As I was teaching a retirement class over at the local community college, and we're talking about safe investments, and I bonds came up as one of those. As longtime viewers know, Bridget and I both really like I bonds and use them a lot in the right situations for clients. So this couple said, "Hey, we've been saving up. We've understood this I bond thing. Have done it for a few years. We got some money in there." And the guy said, "Hey, as I understand, if I wanted to use it for college, I can do that, but it doesn't. But it has to be used for either me or my dependent, and my grandchildren's not my dependent. Is there a way I can avoid taxes and use this money for my grandkids?" So that's where this whole thing started. I thought, geez, that sounds kind of interesting. So I dug into a little bit about and this is, I think, like as you do probably in your practice too, Bridget, right? There's these ideas, there's these planning things, and then you don't use it for every client, right? There's some of these things, but it's knowing, hey, this thing's out there. Geez, good. Let's go dig and find out what the specifics are, right? So maybe to start with that on using I bonds and some double E bonds as well. Using those for college expenses can be tax free, meaning you put in 10,000, it grows to 12 or 15,000. I take all that money out and don't pay taxes on any of the gains if I meet certain requirements. I had to have bought the bond when I was over 24 years old. I have to use it for college expenses. And then there's an income limit. And basically, if you're a married couple, once you get over about $150,000 or so of income, then you have to pay taxes on those I bond cashing out. But if you're under that, then you can use the I bonds to pay for college for you and for your kids. It's really clear there's no taxes on that, right?
Okay.
So we talked in a recent episode about how I bonds and how you use I bonds as you approach retirement to develop cash might be something for people to think about as your children are getting to that, hey, 5 years or so from college, and I can't afford a lot of fluctuations in my savings. That could be another place where the I bonds might fit in a portfolio, right?
Okay. Okay, but you're talking about for grandkids.
That's right. So, hey, for kids, that works. There's a spot for this. Now, this is grandma and grandpa, right, in their 70s. And they go, listen, the grandkids are going, I've got these I bonds. They've gotten some really great interest over the years. Do I have a chance to use these for the kids' college and not have to pay taxes on that? And so there's sort of I don't know if it's a loophole is the right word, but there's a path to get there, right? Directly, I can't do this. I can't take that I bond, cash it out, and pay for my grandchild's education. That doesn't meet the exception or the tax-free rules. But what does meet the tax-free rules is in that definition of under the education savings bond program that says, hey, if I pay for college expenses, the cash out of the bond is tax-free. One of the qualifying expenses is contributions to a 529 plan,
Okay.
right? So I can put money in it, and now we're still not giving it to the grandkids yet, but just this idea that, so this is for grandma and grandpa, this is for mom and dad, this is for the kids. Hey, this is for you, for me. I've got an I bond. If I'm going to college, I can put the money I can pay for college tax free. I can also put it into a 529 plan for myself tax free. So what grandma and grandpa do is they say, listen, let's take our I bonds, set up a 529 account for us. Even though we're 72, right? Anybody can set up an 529 account, and we put the contributions, we cash out those I bonds and put them into the 529 account for me. that qualifies for that exception. That's a tax-free, tax-free event.
Okay.
Now I've got a 529 plan that owns what used to be my I bonds, right? And I'm the beneficiary. But what the 529 plan lets a person do is I can then change the beneficiaries. And there's a list of people who qualify, and basically it's close relatives, kids, parents. It can go up, it can go down, it can go to siblings, first cousins, steps, aunts and uncles fit. There's a list of things that you can find. And you go, listen, I can change the beneficiary. As we were getting ready for this, we're kind of taking a look at that list. One of the things that's not on there is grandkids. Grandparents are going up, but grandkids going down. I'm not sure if that was a typo in the source we're looking at or not, but for sure I can change the beneficiary from me to my kid, who's the parent of the grandchild, and then they can change the beneficiary to the grandkid, right? So we can do a two-step process perhaps, or a one-step process, but in any event, that's how we can get that money. Then that 529 money goes to the kids can then use it for their college things and room and board, even other things, all tax-free. So that's sort of sort of following the path, but the rules are set up, and by following those, you can get into a spot where you're using that I bond money tax-free for college for your grandkids.
Makes sense. And the one thing I would say is that my understanding with 529s is I think that if there's the owner and the beneficiary, and
Yeah,
the owner can change the beneficiary, but the beneficiary can't change the beneficiary. So that's my understanding, but I haven't done this particular transaction,
yeah.
and I'm sure parents wouldn't have a problem changing it to the kids, even if a beneficiary can change beneficiary. So
And there's other things we could get into too. I appreciate, and so know the rules. One of the rules is, or one of not one of the rules, but one of the things to think about is, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, we're not trying to make something that doesn't all, hey, there's no deduction, and we're trying to make something up, right? We're trying to follow the rules on these things. So some of it is, hey, do your research on this, figure out what the best way to do this is. One of the other things that you can do with these is also make gifts of this, right? So we're talking about changing beneficiaries. Depending on the amounts that are in there, I can just make a gift and I can gift the ownership to somebody else,
of
right?
an I
So there's different ways that you can get to that.
you're talking about with I bonds, you can gift I bonds to
You can
someone.
gift the I bonds, you can gift the 529 plans, right? Then there's gift tax rules. So once you get up over what, $20,000 or so per person per year, then you got, so if you have, $5,000, $10,000 in an I bond, maybe it's easier just to make a gift of that, right? Maybe it's easier to, there's some other things. You start getting into some bigger numbers. That's when really you probably should, consult with somebody to help figure out, make sure you're dotting the I's and crossing the T's, sort of a thing with that. But there are some other places too, and like so many of our financial planning, strategies. It's like, well, listen, this is not one size fits all, but knowing that it's a possibility, I guess, like that's the thing to think about. That hey, it's not a complete, it's not a closed door, but there's some other things that you should think about. And this 529 idea is not go out and do this. It's something, hey, I should explore this and try to figure out if this makes sense, if that's what your goal is for things.
Right. And I would say that first of all, I love this. Okay, here's a path. This is something that is doable. You can do it. But I would say, like, if my radar is up, because if I've got somebody with I bonds, then who wants to help fund child's education, then that's where, like, okay, I happen to have I bonds. Great. Then you can use it. And I happen to want to fund my grandkids' education. Okay, here's where you can take the money from. Like,
Yep.
versus I'm going to put money in I bonds with the intent of having a 529 in 20 years, etc.
Yeah,
That where
absolutely.
it's more like, oh, okay, look at where I am right now. Okay, how can I best pay for those things I want to, or how can I best help pay for my grandkids' college? Oh, over here,
Right.
and here's some hoops that we're talking about going through, versus like talking about that as a strategy uh, in order to help fund your grandkids' education.
Right. That's such a great reminder that, and sometimes it's easy to sort of get pigeonholed. Well, I'm saving this money for that purpose. And sometimes we talk about the envelope or the bucket theory like that. It absolutely works. But then there's other times where you go, oh, I want to tie in where this, and the answer is, well, listen, when we get to that spot, we'll figure out where the best place to take the money is for retirement, for paying for college education, for other things. Is here's the situation, what's the best place to take this? And that really is the takeaway that I think from this is, oh, here's an option that we might want to look into, that can we, if we already have I bonds, maybe we can use some of those things in sort of a non-traditional way, right? So
Right.
being aware that it's out there and that here's something that you could explore, not that you do it for that purpose. It's got to be part of that bigger plan with things, right?
It seems like that's a great place to wrap it up. I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermel. I've got a family financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm John Scherer. I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. Bridget and I are both taking on new clients at our practices, but we're also both members of the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners. So if you like the way that we think about financial planning, would like to find an advisor in your area, you can check out acplanners.org.
And don't forget to subscribe.